church can have people, programs, music, language, activity, structure, branding, and still feel dead in the places that matter most. That is not cynicism, that is reality. Crowds are not the proof of life, noise is not proof of health, and familiarity with religious things is not the same as spiritual substance. Paul points to something deeper. When he speaks about the believers in Rome, he highlights that their faith is known. He later describes them in ways that matter even more, full of goodness, filled with knowledge, able to instruct and strengthen one another. That is a very different profile than what many people call a strong church today. It is not built first on optics, it is built on substance. And that immediately raises an uncomfortable question. If people talked about your church when you are not in the room, what would they say first? Not what do you hope they would say, what actually rises to the surface? Because Paul's picture is not vague. A spiritually alive church carries visible goodness. That means people are not just correct, they are shaped, their presence is not cold. Their lives are not harsh, there is a kind of moral beauty in how they treat people. And that matters because truth without goodness can become sharp in all the wrong ways. But goodness alone is not enough either. Paul also speaks of knowledge. That means a living church is not just warm, it is clear, it knows what it believes. It is not blown around by every voice, trend, pressure, or emotional mood. It has substance in the mind, not just movement in the room. And this is where many churches break apart. Some chase warmth and lose truth. Others defend truth and lose warmth. Paul will not let you choose that split. Goodness and knowledge belong together. The church should be both humanly compelling and doctrinally grounded. If one is missing, the witness starts thinning out fast. But he does not stop there. He also points to mutual strengthening. In other words, a living church is not built around one voice, feeding silent consumers. Believers are able to speak into each other's lives, encourage, warn, strengthen, correct, remind. That is a different picture of church than religious attendance. It is active, relational, and spiritually adult. And that might be where this gets most uncomfortable. A lot of modern church culture trains spectators better than disciples. People come in, receive content, leave, and repeat the cycle. But Paul's picture is not a crowd sitting near spirituality. It is a people being formed deeply enough to help each other stand. That is what life looks like. And it also explains why some churches feel shallow even when they are busy, because busyness can hide emptiness for a long time. But you cannot fake goodness forever. You cannot fake clarity forever. You cannot fake mutual strengthening forever. Eventually, what a church is really built on starts showing. This is why the question is bigger than reputation. Yes, Paul says their faith was known, but reputation is only healthy when it grows out of reality. A church should not aim to look alive. It should aim to be alive. And if it is truly alive, people will notice eventually, not because it marketed itself well, but because grace changed the texture of the people inside it. That is also why this matters for wounded Christians, and too many people are not done with Jesus. They are tired of crowds that looked spiritual but felt empty. So we should be careful here. The answer is not to pretend church does not matter. The answer is to recover what church is supposed to feel like when the gospel is really at work. Goodness, clarity, mutual strengthening, not perfection, but evidence of life. If this kind of Bible clarity helps you return to the text instead of just consuming content, subscribe. That is what this channel is for. So what makes a church spiritually alive? Not size first, not energy first, not image first. A living church is a people shaped by grace deeply enough that truth becomes clear, goodness becomes visible, and believers become strong enough to help one another keep standing. That is more than a crowd. And once you hear that, the final question of the week lands hard. Because sometimes one small decision places a person into the kind of community that changes everything. That is the next video.